right, there you have it, the closing bell from the New York Stock Exchange. Not even a strong jobs report could stop another losing week on Wall Street. The Dow Jones was down throughout the day. It closed down about 170 points.
The S&P 500 fell close to 1%. The Nasdaq also dropped, ending down more than 1.5%. Paul Sankey joins us now. He is lead analyst at Sankey Research. Paul, welcome. Thanks for joining us. What forces were driving the market today?
It's unquestionably, obviously, the Russia-Ukraine situation in oil. We've got over $115 a barrel oil here, which obviously is totally extraordinary. And in Europe, I'm afraid to say, $200 per euro, $200 euro per megawatt hour natural gas, which is about $400 a barrel of oil equivalent over there. So crazy situation in the energy markets.
And Paul, of course, you have been raising the alarm that current oil supply issues could have dire consequences on the economy. But you've also said that releasing emergency oil stocks to increase the supply is a bad idea. So what is the move? How do you fix this?
Well, I think we didn't like them releasing emergency oil stocks in November. You know, we felt that just before the end of the year that it was really just about trying to bring the gasoline price down. There was no emergency at that time. We were very worried about winter. Now, I think, you know, with a land war in Europe, we can call it an emergency and it's okay for them to release. But of course, you can't keep doing that. Having said that, the US has over 700 million barrels of emergency storage. The problem is Europe doesn't have as much. But for now, this is clearly an emergency, and they're releasing about 2 million barrels a day. The problem is we've lost over 3 million barrels a day of Russian oil supply just about overnight this week. And so the short-term solutions are very few, I'm afraid. You just have to use less, and that's what the price is trying to make people do, simply price them out of the market to rebalance the market.
Paul, is the conundrum we're experiencing with a lack of supply of crude oil the push companies need to shift toward producing more renewable energies?
Well, we've already done that. The problem, as you know, is that it tends to be wind and solar, and that is, as a fact, interruptible. So you've got to have wind, you've got to have sun. And what we need, for example, to run Amazon's data centers, where they claim to be renewable energy driven, you can't run a data center on interruptible energy. You need base load. And really, nuclear is the emissions-friendly way to do that, but people don't like nuclear. So the solution has to be natural gas, and people have to disconnect natural gas from coal and not lump these things into fossil fuels altogether. What we're really looking for is the battery, which is very difficult to find at scale, because when it comes down to it, oil is a naturally occurring, high energy density, cheap substance, which is very difficult to replicate in the lab without using more materials than you would if you just used oil. So it's really difficult.
And so I'm curious what you would propose.
Well, if I was just in charge of everything, it would be nuclear. Yeah, I mean, that's the way forward is actually just to have a nuclear and to rebuild the grid completely and to boost it with wind and solar. There's no question that's what you would do.
So,
to be honest, what the Chinese are doing, I mean, they do what they want as a government,
right?
And look at what they're doing.
But to your point, you said that people just don't like nuclear. Do you think then that nuclear energy just needs a better PR campaign?
Well, yeah, but I mean, look at what's going on in Europe right now. Of course, it scares people, and you've had issues. Fukushima is a good example in Japan, where there was corruption, there was mismanagement, and the potential of a major accident is just so terrifying. It's very hard for people to see all these things rationally. The worst is that people oppose pipelines, because pipelines for oil and gas are the safest, cleanest way to move large quantities of energy, and particularly U.S. energy. So you're in an insane situation where New England imports gas from Qatar and from Trinidad by ship because people, for environmental reasons, oppose pipelines. It just is totally idiotic. So there's an issue with people understanding energy density and also recognizing how much energy they use themselves. You know, people are on their iPhones, driving their cars, et cetera, et cetera. They just don't understand that they use 20 barrels of oil a year, each person in the US effectively. And until people begin to recognize that, you know, recycling a plastic bag doesn't really make much difference.
Sounds like
you need to use.
I'm sorry.